Hey Hayley. Hello beautiful. Thanks for popping on. So nice to see you. Just chilling out. Maybe a couple other people might pop on. I was thinking of talking about orgonites today. I just got some orgonites to grid my house with, and they're just really good to help protect your environment. Oh, hello, beautiful Amy. Nice to see you, honey. Thank you so much for coming back on Apathy Whiskey. I'm pretty chill tonight. I'm just a bit enraged, but at the same time, I'm just letting it flow through me and just going with it because I'm just so upset by seeing like how much mind control there is at the moment, and having gone through the big healing of wounding so much of it, I'm just seeing genuinely good people under so much pressure, and I feel for people. So I hope everyone's okay, and if they're not, I'm sending you lots of love. It's a hard time. With the amount of influx as well, there's just so much coming on, and we're in a Lionsgate portal energy, and that's tomorrow, 8th of the 8th. It's over this period of time, but it's very powerful as well. Oh, so nice to see you girls. Thank you for coming on. The other thing I was going to bring up was actually talking about third parties. It got me thinking about like the mind control and how much the intention for any kind of manipulation is always to get in between two things and to start to create diffusion or separation between the two things. So it's between two people or two groups or whatever it is that needs to communicate. And I've seen it even as an example. I was looking, like just scrolling through Facebook, and it came up with an ad for a dating site, and it says, "Don't meet up in person, date digitally." And it had like a love heart in a digital thing with like a bright yellow picture. And I thought, that's fucked. Like, what kind of reality is that? If don't meet in person, date digitally. And it made me think about what the third party is, because a third party is something that divides or creates division between two things that are relating. And that tends to be a tactic in which you see a lot of like parasitical, just like really kind of that parasitical consciousness that needs to get in between you and your natural relationship with something else. So I guess that's kind of like, it really stirs me up. I'm just like, why is this promotion of human beings being separate and not connected and having something in between them to tell them whether it's okay to be connected? And I just find that really enraging. Okay. Oh, hello. It's nice. Hey, Rio. It's nice to see you, hun. Oh, hello. Jenny. Hello, Jenny. So I think that I just get a bit concerned about the division that's creating, and this has a psychological effect. It's not something that's going to go away just because we've made this decision about this separation. But even just what I said before about that date digitally, don't see each other in person, date digitally, it made me think like an app which is run by a business makes money off saying things like that to people, and they might not even have a bad intention intentionally, and they might just be like capitalizing off a difficult time. But to me, there's something wrong with that. It's quite concerning. So I just wanted to connect in with people and talk about the third party thing, to be really aware where things are coming in between you and your natural relationship with life. Your natural relationship with life is your business. It's your truth. It's your experience every single day. It's what's got you to this point now. And because we've now got this AI technology that's coming into our reality as a big focus, without even us knowing, we don't understand the effects of that because it's entirely a new reality that's being merged through the digital world with the natural world. And we haven't learned how to identify our boundaries within that yet. So that's a lot of soul searching, that's a lot of making sure that we're healed enough to be able to make clear decisions in this time. So I think my real focus is about people healing themselves, and that just comes from, that can come from so many different things, going for a bike ride, or spending time by a tree, or, having a beautiful glass of water that you've just prayed over. or, you know, spending time with one of your best friends and eating chocolate, or there's lots of ways in which healing occurs, but making sure that we recognize that we don't have to be subjected to this idea that we're all sick. You know, I know what it's like to be genuinely sick, and I feel like people are being forced to act and pretend like they've got symptoms, or even just by everyone being forced to wear a mask. I mean, that is a personal choice, and I'm not against or for anything. I'm just open, and I just think that people should be able to make that choice based on their own, what they feel comfortable with. And as someone who's been through a lot of trauma, a lot of my decisions have had to come from my heart space and not from other people's words or not from other people's opinions. And even when it was hard for me, because I was a people pleaser, you know, I had difficulties. I didn't really know how to cater to my own truth sometimes. In some ways, yeah, I did. In nature, in the sense of the wildness within me, that at times I could free myself from that. But there were times where I was sort of easily wanting to serve somebody else more than myself, and that could put me in a lot of situations where I was entangled in other people's traumas, and then that became my reality as well. So you've got to be really aware of like what third party is coming between you and your natural experience and your natural life and your living experience. Your living experience is between you and the covenant, like, you know, the God covenant of you and your God self. And I'm not like a religious person. I didn't follow any kind of religious text when I was younger or anything. I just feel that to me is a truth, that God is our most expanded awareness of self. It's just the light that exists within all of us and as a part of all of us. So I guess, yeah, the third party thing, making sure that you are really in tune with your own self so much that you identify when an artificial energy starts to come in and starts to tell you what you're allowed to do between you and your own living covenant with self. And to me, that's a spiritual war. That's coming at people from a point of view of them denying their nature, of their divinity, you know. And I think that's concerning, that people would ask people to do that. But I guess everyone has to look into that themselves and come into their own place of truth, whatever that is, and that's fine. But the third party thing concerns me, you know, that, like, coming back to what I'd said earlier, and I'll repeat it for people that have just joined, you know, seeing an ad that was for dating site, and it said, don't meet in person, date digitally, meaning like just keep sending photos and talking online, but don't actually connect face to face. And it's I was saying how like the effects of these things are long lasting. They're not just things that we say once and then they actually become things that are concepts in our reality without even us realizing we're inviting them in. So it's important to critically think about these things and just think about what it is that they're trying to do. Like, they might not have any other agenda other than to make money from their dating site, but that's still something that gets in between you and a connection with somebody else, another living being. I mean, yeah, that's concerning, that's becoming a normal thing, and that we don't have an understanding of our own boundaries because we don't even realize we're even lending our parts of ourselves out to things, thinking that, you know, using our phone is just an object. You know, if like the last video, I did a live video and I talked about every day being a new altar, and that altar might have a few objects left over from the day before, and they're like the objects are sort of metaphors for things that you might still be mulling over in your consciousness, or ideas or feelings, or things that are still coming through as a sort of a container of awareness that are still unfolding, that you're still bringing through in some of your days as a continuation. And the way that you move it on the altar sort of shows you that you're changing your perspectives in any of those given objects which represent something. You know, if I don't know, I could maybe choose a crystal that looks like an eye, and maybe it's the purple color, and for me, I always see an eye whenever I see it, so I use that as a metaphor for my third eye, or I use it for a metaphor for seeing. So I might use that on the altar as a you know, I'm just talking metaphorically here, but as you could also make an altar too. And so I use those objects as a way of understanding, how do I explore more of that part of my consciousness? And you start to become more lucid because it becomes a creative practice. You know, it reminds me of when I do art, like you start to lose yourself within the process so much that you don't need to have the identity around being the artist. You're actually so in it that you've become everything at once, and you're just becoming like fully holistic within that creativity. You become immersed in it. And I guess I started to realize like later on that was such a spiritual practice for me without even fully realizing that was what it was. It was such a big part of helping me step into a more spiritual practice every day. And yet I only associated it with art originally when I was younger. And then now I look at it, I'm like, oh, I do altars all the time. I don't have to create art and sell it. I can just be continuously in that process of creating. And when I recognize that I'm immersed in something, then I'm really embodying it. I'm becoming one with it. I'm merging with it. So we've just got to be careful what we're immersing ourselves into, because they have long-lasting effects. Sometimes you don't realize that something that you're using or bringing into your life, or even a person who might not really fit to your energy, but you're keeping them there, there's a codependency or whatnot. And that energy is actually, on some level, there's a dissonance or the disconnection, but you're still magnetizing that lesson in. So you just keep rebirthing cycles of karmic kind of, I guess, lessons as a way of up-leveling yourself eventually to overcome it, to move beyond it, to then hopefully release it. And I think our Western society, we're so maximal in how we're so maximal in that we always want the most maximum benefit for whatever we're doing. We have the most extreme time. And I think sometimes it's learning, like, we don't always realize how to learn to let go and not need to like maximize things, is learn to take a step back and be like, okay, like it is about releasing just as much as it is about bringing and manifesting and expanding. You've got to be able to release so much to be able to expand into new spaces. You can't step into a full space. You've got to create an empty space to step into. And that relates to our reality now. What kind of empty space can we create that allows us, like, what do we have to clear in our reality now that is manifesting through scenarios and narratives and through, these characters and archetypes? What do they reflect back to us, about our own archetypes? The demonic energy, and then you've got like all these different archetypes that are playing, like the good and the bad and the different, depending on whatever it is. What are they teaching us about ourselves? And like for me, when I look around and I see all this chaos and I just feel for so many people, and I go through my own roller coaster in it, which is just human, I want to get to a place where I can fully identify and transmute any disconnection, fragmentation within my own persona and within my own like soul connection. Any kind of fragmentation or past life / parallel, because everything exists now. It's all currently existing and unfolding as a soup. We see ourselves as a particle within this soup, and we experience things what we perceive as linearly, but actually we're experiencing a continual flux in this soup that's just being stirred and moved continually. We're always changing and growing. And that's why we also have to be careful of third parties that tell us and show us how to stay in a cage without knowing, or show us, they test us. They go, you know what? We're going to change this reality and reduce the information to such a smaller degree. We're going to keep you in this cage, but it's you that's consenting to it, because you don't realize that that's what's happening, and you're expected to be God realized, because that's the way that this reality works. And so your free will is used against us, even when we don't even realize. And it is a genuine victimization at times for people in some of those experiences. So the third party thing, even just, that ad saying, don't date face to face, date digitally. Think about what that means. Like, why is that something that we should be considering? Like, not connecting to people heart to heart, in a genuine way. Regardless of the situation, I'm just talking more metaphorically, like look at the long-term effects of some of these phrases and some of these things on our psyche, and especially while we're all experiencing a level of stress from different scenarios, watching our reality change so much, which is really traumatic. I mean, sometimes people can't even handle the basic of changes in their life, let alone the whole reality, just everything flipping in all these different directions, explosions happening, this happening. Like, there's so many things that we can't even keep up with it mentally at times, consciously. I'll just check in with everyone. Hey guys, it's nice to see you. Oh, hey Charlie, always nice to see you on, girl. Oh, no worries, Amy. I'll talk to you soon, sweetie. Oh, thanks so much for coming on, guys. So, what else can I use as an example for third parties that I see a lot? It causes a lot of distortion. I can relate this even if you're thinking about narcissism. When you're thinking about, say, someone who's been diagnosed as a narcissist, the thing called triangulation. So they use triangulation techniques to juxtapose, like they give a certain amount of information to one person and they give a different amount of information to the other person and work them against each other. But the person that's pulling the strings is the person that's creating the triangulation. That's the third party. And we're actually really conditioned in this reality to live like that. And that's fine. Like we have our reality and we're just where we are in evolution. But when you think about the effects of that normalization of someone always being between you and the natural relationship with whatever that is. So for example, the state, when the state gets in between the child and the parents, or when something happens to interfere, and sometimes it can be the best thing that's needed when there's authenticity, when there's credibility, when there's love involved. Absolutely, a third party can actually bring a witness to the situation, a loving witness, which can resolve ongoing cycles just through that presence, and that's another thing. We have just as much power in that if we're consciously aware, then we do lose power when we're not aware. So yeah, contradiction. It's fun. It's nice to see everyone popping on. Thank you so much. Christos. Hello, Christos. Hey, Matt. It's nice to see you. Oh, Matt Sim. Okay, don't know if that is you. I'll say hello anyway. Hi. I was talking about third parties. Just in the concept, a metaphorical understanding of third party, like what it means for something to get in between you and the relationship that you have with something that is natural. And I'm seeing a lot of this at the moment, and I just wanted to bring it to people's awareness, because I feel that the more that we understand how to hold our own power, and the more that we understand how to love ourselves and truly honor what we need, even if somebody else doesn't agree with what it is that we're doing, that we know that if it's coming from a place of love and a place of truth, that it's the right thing for us. And I can give an example for that. Going through all the illness processes I went through, I had to learn to really trust in myself, because I didn't have people always around me that understood how I was truly and what was right for me. There were people that were only focused on their own limited view on it, but weren't experiencing it from my reality. So therefore, it's still an opinion from me, from my point of view, because I was experiencing it. So I knew what was right for me. And I think when you're in a position where you're really put under pressure to either falter into somebody else's will or to stand true in yours, it has consequences. If the person isn't a nice person, that can be quite an unpleasant consequence. But I mean, and sometimes it means that you don't necessarily even get that. It depends on whatever's happening. And I'm just talking very loosely about whatever narrative could be in front of somebody with this type of choice. But for me, it was hard. It put pressure on me, but it actually made me a lot stronger as a person. It made me realize what's important. If I don't have my own choices, then there's no real point in my life. Like, that's the simple truth. If I'm not making my own choices and I'm not living from that place of my own fierce, like creative heart space, then what is my existence? And I'm not putting that on anyone else in a sense that you don't have to feel that way about that. But for me, that's kind of something that I feel. I think that it's creative, individual expression of the God self that we all are, to me, is the most divine thing that can exist as a person. I'm so grateful to be able to even know that is a real thing from my experience, from going through so much darkness, spending long periods of time in a bed, hearing the door shut every day when people go and come and go and come, and you experience a reality that is just almost in transience while you watch this continual thing go by, like life go by. And I remember seeing the night become day and then day become night, and I'd just be in bed the whole time. I was so unwell, I couldn't get out, and I felt so trapped at times in the pain of that, and I felt so trapped in that. But I still had my creative expression, even if it was in the tiniest spark within my own self. I had the choice to be able to think or feel in moments that I was able to, and I had the choice to be, when I was well enough at points, I was able to write and start putting my will into words and start working at trying to build my strength within my spirit so I could get strong again. And that was from Crohn's. I went through a big, healing process over the last 8 to 12 years with that, and as a result of trauma, in case anyone didn't know. I mean, not that you would have to know or anything, it's just human, we're all going through it. But I think those things really taught me about healing in a different way than maybe how other people perceive things, and it made me realize how much to trust in my body. At first I didn't. I found that it was like a roller coaster, and I didn't know how to be in control of what was happening, and I didn't really know how to I didn't know how to maintain mental stability through something that I couldn't feel in control of, and I didn't have any control of most of the things in my life while I was really at that place. But when I went through, once I went through it long enough, you build routines, and then you build ways in which it's like initially it's really overwhelming because you have no idea what reality you're living. It's so different to the reality you lived before. But then you build your strength, and then you continue, and then there comes a point where you're like, this is not going to get me, and I'm fucking going to get through this. Like, I know it. And those moments become more regular. And the other thing that I remember doing a lot was calling in my future self, because my future self has already been through it and is on the other side. That version of self, there's lots of versions along the way. And I kept feeling that part of me come in and remind me, see bigger, open up. Just remember, this is what you got to do right now. This is the hard slog, but it will open up at some point, and you just have to trust. And I'm getting the same feeling about the now time. It's like everything that's happening at the moment, it's a lot for everyone to deal with. But if everyone can just start centering who they are, and if they can start recognizing honestly where they're wounded, like where they need to heal their wounding, where the relationships that wounded their heart in childhood and their upbringing, and the things that are said that have been anti-Christ, have been anti-you, or anti the true essence of you, and have tried to break down who you truly are. I just want to say like that you can get taken down, but if there's still a spark left, you've still got something to work with. And that's what I found in my journey of healing, and just in the now time where I'm seeing a lot of the push down. I just want to remember the spark within me, within everyone, and everyone remember the spark within themselves, that they can grow that fire into a roaring I am presence, divine sovereign awareness, where they live from that truth, and everything that is untruth gets burned in the presence that they are. And that's what I've been really thinking about lately, is the eternal flame. I've written poems about it, remembering that eternal flame and holding that spark present so you can build upon it continuously and develop upon it. I've got the animals coming in. They want to get fed. And that's a really important part, I think, of where we're at too. It's like, are we going to let fear, come in between us? Is fear going to be the third party that says, no guys, you can't go there because you might trip. No guys, you can't do this because you do this. Like, with this psychology that's unleashing in people is affecting people's ability to stabilize their mind processes and to stabilize the way that they would normally come from their heart space, to destabilize that. And I'm not anti anything. I'm not necessarily for anything. I'm open. Okay, I'm open to change. I know that I'm a vessel, and whatever happens, happens. That's just the reality of life. I'm open. But what I'm seeing a lot of is a lot of manipulation, and I know it pretty well because I've watched it quite a lot in my lifetime. And I just want other people to be able to start to look at their reality and look at where things are coming in between you and your natural self and your natural environment, and start to just critically think about those. Like, is that something that you want? If you want that, cool, go for it. If you don't, then maybe start thinking about other areas in your life where that's also become normalized. Because that wounding, the last video I did, the live video, I talked about how our wounding becomes weaponized on other people and ourselves. It becomes a self-sabotage. We block ourselves from living our truth. It becomes a damaging thing for other people because we attack people when we feel triggered instead of actually assessing that the wounding lies within us. I'm not saying that the decisions of any kind of abuse that has been applied upon you or anyone that you know that has trauma, that is not their fault. They did not ask for that. nor, there is no responsibility on somebody who gets preyed upon in a very malicious or negative way. But the wounding then becomes their responsibility. Unfortunately, it ends up being their responsibility to do the work to overcome it. And that's just the reality of wounding. It's not the perpetrator's not going to shed a tear over necessarily what they've done, and they're not necessarily going to come to terms in this lifetime with what they've done. But it's up to the person that has the wounding to heal that wounding, so that scar tissue can kind of become a flower rather than scarring, and it becomes a blossoming of a new aspect of self, which can evolve into whole new realities, or whole new aspects of multidimensional experience. I just feel like I'm maybe going a bit far out. Sometimes I can't even help myself. Hello, it's nice to see you. We are the pipe. I love your artwork. I just hadn't looked at it for ages, and I looked over and I was like, holy shit, that's amazing. It's very active and very activating and very bright. I love it. It's really cool. Yeah, I haven't done much art for a while. I've done a lot of art in the sense of making altars and doing all those things, but in the sense of painting, I haven't done anything. Oh, hey Rio, I'm really well. Yeah, I hope you're well too, honey. It's good to see you come up. Oh, yeah. So yeah, if anyone has any questions or wants to talk about anything specific, definitely just put a topic out. I'm open. Oh, my life is art. That's so true. Thank you. Our lives are art. Yeah, absolutely. That's such a big part of what this is. And if you're not allowed to create the reality that you, in your heart space, hold, which is what I was talking about earlier, having that, not letting a third party come in between you and your living relationship with other beings or other things, or it's learning to live your life as an art, as a creative portal or a creative fire, burning away the untruth that exists, no matter what it is. If you learn to cultivate that kind of creativity, that's a really powerful way to live life. But I think that's what I'm seeing a lot of, the intentional destruction or deflection from that, to try to make people not trust their own choices. And that's tyranny, when people are sort of conditioned to feel that they aren't allowed to make a choice and that they should feel guilty or feel uncomfortable, they need permission outwardly. That's the opposite of sovereignty. That's moving into slavery. And I've talked about that before in another video before, where I said, what is the opposing energy to divine sovereignty? And it's like physical slavery. That's what we're dealing with as a golden age time. We're in a golden age right now. We're coming to the full confrontation of our past, and that past is filled with slavery and filled with torture and filled with satanic influence. And this has to come out and open, as people know, to come out for people to even recognize what's happening. And look, there's a lot of, there's still all those things in play. They haven't been resolved as of yet. But within our consciousness, if we start resolving that energy and resolving that conditioning and resolving that wounding, then that already starts to create a different reality, because you're starting to heal and holistically remember more of who you are, which means that you're not going to give your power away externally in the same sense. You'll be always within your own power, holding your truth, while you're able to burn away all the untruth that you come into contact with, even if it hurts or if it feels conflicting at the time. If you're in that truth so much, you start to actually transmute it a lot quicker than you probably ever realized that you could do. Until you start doing it, you just don't realize you're capable of transmuting that. I know that from PTSD. I had such bad PTSD after all the flare-ups, because the physical pain that I went through and the experiences of going through isolation for long periods of time, 8 months of isolation, not being able to communicate really much, because I was just too fucked, too messed up. From the health condition, and that really affected me over a long period of time, but it trained me because I was able to move through it. But I had a major level of trauma as a result of that, and also I kind of realized that a lot of the illness was a part of the illness was massively a manifestation of trauma. So when I was doing that trauma healing stuff, because when you're in a really bad way, you can't really deal with trauma when you're laying in bed and you're foaming at the mouth and you're convulsing and shit. You can't really do much there. You just got to get through that really difficult time. But once you get through it, you've got to start then chipping away at trauma before your next flare up, or so you can start to kind of clear away a lot of that wounding, so you're able to cope with the level of pain and the physical karmic cycle that's manifesting. But I don't even remember. I think I was saying something that was leading to that. But anyway, if anyone remembers, that's cool. Hey, Esther. It's so good to see you, beautiful. Little mermaid. I saw you were at the Byron not long ago. I was just like, before they shut the borders. Good girl. I think they're shutting the borders again. Yeah, I don't remember what the point was. I got a bit distracted. Sorry, guys. That happens. If anyone wants any specific conversation, I've just got 3 people on. I'm just starting these lives. Ocean energy. I love that. I definitely could. I've been like getting my ocean fix from you metaphorically. I've just been like closing my eyes, tuning into the energy that you are. I'm just like, yeah, I'm all good. I'll just keep writing posts. It's all good. I love the ocean energy that you bring. It's awesome. Yeah, Esther had a dream about me swimming with humpback whales. I think we were swimming together with humpback whales and dolphins, and it was just the night before I had a fire, and I saw this really strong imprint of a dolphin in the fire wearing a witch's hat. I just thought it was funny that we were all swimming together in that. So it's really beautiful. Thank you. Well, I think I might head off soon. I've got the cat and the dog. I was talking about third party and how we've just got to be really careful and aware that third party situations, like where things get in between you and your natural relationship with life. And I gave an example, which was of a dating, image that I saw. Don't date face to face, date digitally. And I just thought that's really a very confusing and distorted kind of message that will impact people psychologically as a long-term thing. And I think we need to just be more critically thinking about some of these trends that evolve from these really toxic cultures and some of these like mind control manipulation kind of frameworks. They might not necessarily even intend to do that, but advertising by definition is literally misdirection. I mean, you look at Coca-Cola, for example, like they, look at an ad and the girl's like hot, like blonde hair, like tan skin, out and playing volleyball. Like, yeah, okay, you do see people, but people that are really addicted to Coca-Cola don't look like that and aren't living like that. That isn't a true depiction of the actual product that they're producing. And I think that's something that we have to just start to decode ourselves. We've been so indoctrinated into this advertising reality, this misdirected satanic kind of influence where they sort of like make people believe things that and infuse ideas or confuse ideas that aren't necessarily even in any way related as a frequency, but they've sort of found a way to create a sort of muddy, low grade kind of complacency around that, because when people just get exposed to too many layers of distorted information or energy, they get lost, because it's literally starts to, if you think about it, like when we were in a time where we don't have anything that we have now, say we were just natural people on this natural land as a tribe, there's literally the only influence that we have is nature and us and our relationship to nature, like in every way, which is humans, community, through growing food, through like whatever it is, hunting. There's all these different things that they needed. Okay, a third party eventually comes down the line, say we fast forward to now, and they have to make you believe that you need the things that they're trying to tell you that you need, because they want to get in between you and the outcome, or you and that whatever it is, the nature relationship. So to make money, to make this artificial reality work, they have to get in between you and that nature and convince you and cause you to go stray and cause you to go off the onto the mainstream path and off your own unique path. And I think that, like, it's not something that people identify a lot because we're so indoctrinated into it. But I think misdirection is a big problem. And I think it makes it difficult for me to identify what's going on most of the time. Like, I have to spend quite a lot of time reverse engineering things, because I'm just like, is that true? Where do I feel like that? And I have to go into my heart space and bring it in, purify it, come back out, and then be like, okay. And that doesn't have to take time necessarily. That can be something that you learn to bring through as a consciousness that just operates. It's like anything, you ride a bike and eventually it just becomes normal. You're not thinking about riding the pedals, you're just intuitively tapping in. But yeah, I just think that that's something that people should be aware of. Oh, lightning, thunder, that's awesome. Well, I'm going to leave it at that, guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to try to do a little bit more and just share my thoughts as I have them, because I have way too many, and the people that are closest to me probably hear it too much at times. I mean, I don't talk that much to them, but when I do, I'm sure they hear a lot. And I'm just like, man, I need to start sharing this with more people. But yeah, I'm sending big hugs to everyone. I hope everyone's well. Oh, Nicolene, I've got to go, honey. I'm heading off. Watch it from the beginning. I was talking about third parties. It's just that interference between our natural relationship with self. That's the most important thing. Maintain your natural relationship with self. Own your natural relationship with self. Don't let a third party come in between you and convince you outside of your own truth that you need to live a reality that is not in your best interest, nor is it in your, you're in your plan, in your soul essence. We need to trust that more and stop listening to logic, like the conditioning, the parts of ourselves that try to that muzzle other parts of ourselves and says, no, don't think like that. It's like, think every way. That's the whole point. Be open, be creative, think every way. Don't make an opinion. Be proud of the fact that by the time you've even come to a concept of an opinion, that you've already transcended it. That's what people should be proud of. Transcending opinions, not having opinions. Like me talking right now, I mean, I'm going to continuously grow. I'm open, just like you guys are. Transcending opinions should be our goal as human beings. We shouldn't be like trying to hang on to them for our dear life and like beat people over with them, fuck that. I can speak, you can speak, we can all listen. It is what it is. It's different when we're dealing with like satanic or Luciferian or dark energies. That's a different thing. Free speech, that whole energy is intentionally sabotaging by nature. That's a completely different thing. But when I'm talking about full expression, full self-awareness regarding what I was talking about before, it's just like, that's the most important thing, is owning who you are, being in your sovereignty, being in your center. Don't let people get in the way of your relationship with nature. And I'm really passionate about this, as you can tell. I care about it. Oh, we're so radical, man. Oh, green beans, organic food. Oh, it's so extreme. Eating nature like we have pretty much up until the last 100 years. Like, until this, MAFIA kind of, medical team came in board around 1920s and started, there's a lot more to it, but there was a lot of propaganda in that too, and a lot of bullying in that. And that's when there were many schools of thought prior to 1920s of medical health. There was actually lots. And I think there was a lot of institutions that represented many different types of schools of thought. And then eventually these, the money-backed people just started buying them all out and eventually just kind of, blanketed them all and made them consolidate into the one school of thought, which was the indoctrination of our current society that we live in. Yeah, so extreme. Green beans, man. Woohoo. The green bean terrorist. So dangerous. No, it's just expression of self, expression of God's self in the form of eating good vegetables, in the form of, speaking a truth, in the form of loving another human being in proximity to within the 1.5 sort of thing. It's just realizing that we literally are nature. Like, you can't sit there and start putting regulations on how nature grows a plant. Like, you can do it up until a point, but eventually nature has its own blueprint, and nature operates the way nature operates. And Gaia/Earth operates the way she operates. We sit there and we talk about it as if we own it, and it's hilarious because we're just meant to be here in service of Gaia. We're just incarnated to be the many different cells of the one body Gaia. And if we aren't serving the Earth, then we're serving a lesser agenda, because the Earth is much bigger agenda than any of those politicians' agendas. Gaia knows exactly what Gaia knows. I can't, I'm just a part of it. I'm just a one aspect, one cell of the greater whole, but I hold the whole, the greater whole within me, as you do, and as we all do. Yeah. Anyway, I'll stop going on for you guys. Love you lots. Thank you so much for watching. Biggest hugs. Mwah, mwah, mwah.